The story of Sweetwater Plantation is a harrowing account that moves beyond the general brutalities of slavery to expose a more calculated, systematic horror rooted in the pseudoscience of eugenics and human trafficking. The narrative begins with Catherine Brennan, an educated woman trapped in a marriage to Nathaniel Brennan, a cold and ambitious Georgia planter. When Catherine is discovered to be infertile, Nathaniel does not merely turn to the common practice of fathering children with enslaved women. Instead, he initiates a deliberate breeding program, inspired by twisted theories of heredity, to create and acquire what he views as superior human property. He forces Catherine to be a complicit witness and official documentarian of these violations, systematically recording the physical and mental characteristics of the enslaved women, starting with a woman named Ruth. Nathaniel's private project escalates with the arrival of Dr. Cornelius Harrow from Charleston, who lends a veneer of scientific legitimacy to the endeavor. Together, they create a detailed ledger system, treating human beings as livestock to be optimized. Catherine learns the darkest secret: children born from this program who exhibit desirable traits, such as light skin, are not raised on the plantation but are taken away in the night and disappeared into a trafficking network, their fates unknown. Horrified but initially powerless, threatened with being committed to an asylum if she speaks out, Catherine begins a secret, multifaceted resistance. She starts her own hidden diary, documenting the crimes with the intention of eventual exposure. Simultaneously, she engages in a slow, patient act of vengeance by gradually poisoning Nathaniel with foxglove, weakening him over time. Her resistance evolves from solitary action to collaboration. She forms a silent alliance with Pearl, an enslaved woman who is also secretly documenting the atrocities. She also enlists the help of Samuel, Nathaniel's own light-skinned son from a previous victim, whom Nathaniel is grooming to be the next generation in his breeding experiment. Through Samuel, Catherine communicates with Reverend Thomas Gaines, a progressive minister who becomes an external ally. Together, they begin smuggling Catherine's documentation to authorities outside Georgia. The conflict reaches a crisis point when Nathaniel discovers their conspiracy and moves to have Catherine institutionalized. In a dramatic public confrontation, Catherine, backed by the courage of Pearl and the enslaved community, confronts Nathaniel. She reveals that she has extensive evidence and that multiple people, both black and white, have created records. She blackmails him into a stalemate: he must end the breeding program, stop selling children, and guarantee Samuel's future freedom, or she will ensure the evidence is published, creating a scandal that his power and connections cannot contain. Nathaniel, cornered and physically deteriorating from the poison, agrees. The breeding program ends, but Catherine remains trapped in a cold, bitter marriage until his death a few years later. After Nathaniel's death, Catherine works to enact a partial justice. She frees Pearl and her daughter, ensures Samuel is freed and moves north to build a new life, and in her will, attempts to grant land and freedom to the remaining enslaved people. Understanding that the full truth would be too dangerous for the living victims in her time, Catherine seals all the documentation, her diary, Nathaniel's ledgers, the trafficking records, with instructions for it not to be opened for 100 years. The plantation eventually fades from memory. A century later, in 1954, a historian discovers the cache. The publication of the Sweetwater documents reveals the grotesque reality of what occurred: a scientifically rationalized system of rape, child trafficking, and eugenics operating within the institution of slavery. The story forces a confrontation with uncomfortable truths about American history, demonstrating how evil can be bureaucratized and justified through the language of science and progress. Catherine Brennan is presented not as a straightforward hero, but as a complex, flawed figure, complicit, hesitant, but ultimately using her privileged position and skills to preserve the truth and achieve what limited justice she could. The story concludes by emphasizing that the real horror is not that such events are unimaginable, but that they are a documented part of a not-so-distant past, and remembering them is a necessary safeguard against history repeating itself.